Thank you so much for staying with us. It's the Wednesday, 2nd April 2025. And of course, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of your current affairs program, TMI, coming to you live from our Lagos Network studios on the ITV network. I am Joshua Okata. Today on the show, we will be looking at Senator Natasha's homecoming retrospect. And of course, we've got a whole lot to talk about because Senator Natasha, not just about her homecoming in retrospect, but of course on the fact that she's got so much on her plate to fight for. And we'll be looking at all of these and the lessons to take home. Of course, I am being joined by my guest in the person of Mr. Yemi Ajayi. He's a public affairs analyst who is joining us virtually. Good morning, Mr. Yemi, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. And of course, I have right here as my co-anchor in the person of Charity. Charity, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Joshua. Good to be here after the holiday.
All right. So let's kick the ball roll. Let's set the ball rolling right about now. So my question to you, Mr. Yemi, of course, you are aware that Senator Natasha has been in the news for quite some time now. And of course, she has got a whole lot in her plate to fight for. Yes, you know very well that before long, she has issue with seat allocation. Aside from that, she has issue with presentation of her project, especially before the House to get approval. And of course, she has an issue with sexual harassment against the sitting President of the Senate, the National Assembly. Now, in all of this, what do you make out of it? Considering the fact that this is a lady who has been largely misconstrued, largely misunderstood, underrated, and of course seen as a weaker vessel, considering the battle that she has got to face. What's your take in all of this?
Thank you very much. I think to a very large extent, it just shows, it's a reflection of what our society has become. Unfortunately, this to me, my personal opinion, seems to be suppressing the voice of the women. Let's start from our presenting various projects to the House, from, some of our expressions. She had issues with situations where she had to beg, literally, for her to be heard about our constituents or our constituency. Now, that really is telling us that it's not a fair treatment to all at the Senate. Now, when it comes to the issue of her sexual harassment, she has alleged, and he who alleges must prove. And she says she has proof. She has something to say. Now, that stemmed from the issue of the seat that was rotated. Normally, the Senate president has the right to rotate anybody's seat at any time. Even the current Senate president's seat was at some time rotated, and he also wasn't happy with that. It's normal for someone not to be happy, but the way we go about it really matters. I believe Senate is a matured, it's a place for matured people. But again, if someone's seat was changed and she was not happy, is either to explain to her or find a way to make her understand, as a matter of process at the red chamber, or the green chamber, as the case may be. So in this case, I will not say she has a lot on her plate, but I think there are a lot pushing against her. And I love her doggedness, her spirit that she kept pushing forward. Thank you.
All right, talking about her doggedness, because obviously that is what a lot of people are seeing, the courage to be able to fight through. We saw when she had this sudden appearance at the Interparliamentary Union that she presented the case before the House. And of course, she has had an opportunity to go through certain interviews with various media outlets, both local and foreign. What do you make out of all of this? Talking about her courage and tenacity to fight.
He's still fighting her cause. And sincerely, I doff my heart for that woman. She deserves a million hug for that. She shouldn't be shut down, going to the media, going to international media, local media, expressing herself. There's nothing wrong about that. She has a case. She says she has a case. She has something to say. She wants justice, as the case may be. I think a matured system should allow her to say, okay, bring your case, let's look into it. But it seems the all forces are being reeled out against her. And this is a woman with a fighting spirit, you know. So for me, I sincerely do not see anything wrong in her going to international parliament to present this case, because we have a system that is that's where you have party government. You know, we have party is there. If you move to any side, you might probably be finding people on the other side, on the opposition side to her. So for me, I don't see anything wrong there. I even see it as a welcome development, and I encourage every woman in the world to do that. Thank you.
All forces reeling at her. In fact, it was as if though you took the word out of my mouth, because I knew that this was going to be a long haul, considering the fact that never has there been a time a senator had to go through this and succeed. I can give you certain cases, because what I'm looking at here is a case where an individual has to challenge the status quo. An individual has to question certain realities. We've seen cases like a senator in the past, in the person of Mr. Senator Abdul Ningi, who challenged the fact that the budget for 2024 was actually padded to the tune of 3.7 trillion, and we saw the brutal force that came. He was actually suspended and heaven never fell. Now we're looking at a senator also who had the courage to expose or bring to bear what actually certain senators usually take home in terms of their salaries, and we saw what actually happened. In fact, he had to confess that it took the intervention of the Senate President, I'm talking about Bukola Saraki, to be able to spare him from that particular sanction. Now we are seeing Senator Natasha, who is questioning, as it were, the realities, why she should have to beg, in your words, before she can present her budget. And we saw the brutal force that came with that. We saw suspension. She was not only suspended, but of course her staff, the salaries that were supposed to be given to our staff, were all shut down. And we saw so much that came, especially with the fact that a recall process was instituted against her. In all of this, what do you make out of the Nigerian system, especially when an individual has to stand up to speak the truth, or speak truths to power, as it were?
You see, for me, I sincerely think that we have a system where people are not allowed to talk. People are not allowed to express themselves. If senators can be suspended for speaking their voice, for speaking or expressing their opinions, what do you now say to a common man on the street? I don't know if you get my point. I
I
think there's
do.
a music coming from your end.
I can hear you loud and clear.
So,
Go ahead, please.
okay, so if that can be done to a senator, I don't know what will happen to a common man. We are in a government now that if you say anything, they come after you. So for me, it beats my imagination to think that reeling forces against people for expressing themselves is rather barbaric, is odoriferous. Permit my big grammar. I don't think it's something that we are mature. The world has gone far. If people within Senate are disagreeing and nothing happened, I want to say this. Personally, I believe the case of Senator Natasha Apoti Uduagan will end as a lesson either to the Senate or to Nigerians. Let's watch and see. Let's watch and see. So,
There was a curfew. At first, it said that there should not be any form of gathering, and then there was a curfew that was imposed, and so that people would not gather. What is your take on this action? Because this action came just when Senator Natasha has announced that she will be coming home to have this Salah gathering with her constituent. What is your take on the action of the government and the security agencies?
Charity, thank you for that question. What was the reason for the curfew? I think we should start from there. Someone is coming home to celebrate with our family, our community, and the government, our security agents went to declare curfew. What are they declaring curfew for? Was there riots there? They may come up to give excuse that it may lead to the breakdown of law and order. From what we saw, there were just people happy to have their daughter back home. So there have not been sign of violence before that time. There was no sign of violence after that time. And I think it's coming to a point where people are gradually getting oppressed in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I think totally the security agent, the government are wrong. They are very, very wrong. And it shows the level of thinking of these people. I'm very sorry to say, because it comes to point of asking question. Why are you placing curfew? Why the ban? Somebody is coming on to visit. It shows clearly that Natasha is a very popular person in Kogi State. She's a queen. She's an enigma. She's powerful there. They're trying everything to suppress her voice. And for me, it's totally wrong.
All
I
right.
think
Okay.
what security
If you
agents
were
will
to
have
take
done
a wild guess, coming from the Commissioner of Information, Kogi State, Mr. Kinsley Fanwo, where he described Natasha's actions as deliberately violating the ban. If you were to take a wild guess, what will be your guess as to the next action of the Kogi State government and the security agents after this?
they will take her to court. What would they make out of it? Nothing. And of course, we have judiciary that you can't trust anymore. So they'll take her to court. You're not certain of what will come out of it. But let me tell you, there is human judgment, there is God's judgment. So if they say she has violated any rule, let them come out with the rule. You placed a ban. She came to visit her people. There was no reason for the ban. She can counter, let them know that this ban is even invalid ban that you are placing. So we have a system that, the next action for them is they may want to take her to the court for flouting the rules and everything, which is okay. I expect that from them. And the Natasha I've studied is not somebody you can suppress her voice. She will also speak up.
About the rally that was held, don't you think that denying her the opportunity to meet with her constituents, especially considering the fact that she is an elective member, what do you make out of it? And of course, her own right to freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of movement.
You see, it's a breach of our fundamental human rights to restrict our movements. They did not come directly to say that, but it is implied. Okay? Coming to meet members of your constituency is not a crime. You have not committed any crime. Restricting movement to go and see them is now a crime. And I think the government should be responsible enough and reasonable enough to be able to accommodate opposition in things and understand the fact that the world is changing. So for me, I don't think it's anything they should have even stepped up to even discuss, have an issue. I don't think so.
All right, now, still staying on the rally, it's time for us to look at the bombshell, as it were, that she dropped right there at the ground. She made a whole lot of allegations, which videos circulating social media allege that she accused the senator of two offenses. One, orchestrating her recall process. First, she said that she got information that the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, reached out to Ododo asking him to commence the recall process, which Ododo felt it was impossible considering the fact that she had so much support from the people. Then he had to resort to Yahaya Bello, which of course she alleged that he made sure that he was going to fund that recall process. That's one. Secondly, she also alleged that Akpabio is also plotting to assassinate her. This time around, not in Abuja, where it will be seen that he had a hand in it, but in her state, Kogi State, so that it will be viewed as her people were against her. What do you make out of all of these allegations?
Josh, one of the things that we should clearly know in this country, in the first instance, allegation of the recall process being initiated and being spoken to Dodo, and from Dodo to Yaya Bello. Well, it's allegation. If she has the proof, she can make it open there. It's an allegation. But if that is the case, I think there's a big shame on someone who doesn't want to take up that mantle of shame upon himself. Someone that has case with EFCC of embezzling over 80 billion naira being used, against a senator, elected senator. And what kind of game are we playing in this country? For me, if that allegation is true, I think the Senate president and those who orchestrate it should have a rethink about this democracy that we're talking about. They should have strong rethink about it. Again, on the case of our assassination, it's obvious that may be a gameplay. It may be obvious. We have seen so many things in this country. It may be a game. I mean, the case of Benazir Bhutto somewhere in the Middle East that happened. Maybe that may be a plan against her. So, but one thing I know, if at that rally where she was, I think it's even exposure for her. For me, it was a very, very big risk for her. She took a big risk. But I also want to say again, if she had made the statement of assassination attempt and she has mentioned the names of some people, I think those people should go ahead and protect her so that they can protect their names, so that they can protect their future. And again, it's time for the security agents, if they are not being used as tools in the hands of some people, it's time to provide protection for this woman, so that whatever she's saying, let it be clear.
All right, so looking at all of this allegation, because everything tends to be pointing at the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, don't you think that it is right at this time to call for a proper forensic investigation as regards all of this allegation? Because Natasha, this is not the first time we're getting to hear her level all sort of allegation against the person of Godswill Akpabio. What do you think needs to be done now? Because like they say, he who alleges must prove. Don't you think it is right time for her to be invited to present her case, to have a day to have fair hearing, so that everyone will be able to see clearly where all of this is coming from? If it's coming from a place of perhaps retaliation or facts, let it be seen to the whole world. What do you think about that?
And I have a follow-up question. What is the way forward in all of this? How should Nigerians move forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the basic thing is for us as a country to, especially the Senate. The Senate at this point should entertain, our complaints, and also I think she should also follow the normal process. Someone should be there to sponsor, these complaints to the Senate, and once I think it's accepted, the next point is to take this forward. Taking it forward this time around, it implies that the Senate will set up committee, entertain what she's saying, make a recommendation. And once the recommendation comes, it should be followed. And I think that is what the country should follow at this point. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this may not just be the last time we'll be hearing from Senator Natasha, because this might just be one of the opportunities to open the kind of worms that we'll be expecting in the days ahead. But of course, we'll definitely get to invite you to have your take on this issue. Thank you so much, Mr. Yemi Ajayi, Public Affairs Analyst, for coming on the show virtually. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that's the offering for you this morning on the show from our Lagos Network studios.